Howdy, hey, hello. You are on Patriots Inside the Wire with Tracy here and the Tree of Valor, Lori Egeter. Patriots Inside the Wire tonight, our Wednesday Warrior show, which is Heroes Media Group, a televised broadcast group, as well as our radio stations. Tonight with us, we went ahead and jumped right in. We have Dan Corio on the show with us, New York Police Department, but I'm going to back up a minute and say hello. Grab your loved ones, your friends, your moms, your dogs, share, get the information out there because we're live, which means you can interact, you can comment, you can give us the information that you feel is the right information. You can get in touch with us. So tonight, as we're live, you can interact. I go to the YouTube. That is the smartest thing to do. Go to YouTube at Patriots Inside the Wire. Again, Patriots Inside the Wire on YouTube. That is the easiest way to look and see what we're doing, comment, and get involved. Welcome to the show, Pages Inside the Wire with the Tree of Valor and Dan Corio. How are you doing?
What's going on, girls? How's everybody doing?
We are doing because we got you in the show. We know you're very, very busy. I happen to know Dan well through music, but I want to take us back through you before music.
Yeah.
Before we do this, we have to do this shout out.
Oh yeah. Let's
keep my head up like this.
All right, let's see what there's a gift. Is this a gift? Is this like a?
Well, this is. I just heard Lexi downstairs yelling for him already.
I have no idea what's happening, but you do, so that's good.
So Lexi from Make-A-Wish loves the nation's protectors. Okay. And so for her Make-A-Wish, all these veterans and police officers came to our house. We opened the door and they were lining the street. And this, she wanted me to wear.
Oh, nice.
People were lining our street. Their shirt, the shirt and the hat.
Nice.
She was very excited for me to wear this. Shout out to them and Make-A-Wish. But I just had to say it for her because I almost wasn't on the show tonight because of her crazy driving. But
I'll tell you what, let me know, and when we're done with this, we'll get some I'll get your information and I'll get her over an ESU and a Scuba team shirt and some NYPD swag and all that stuff. So definitely, my boys will be happy to help out any way we can for sure. So we'll get you some stuff sent over. Definitely let me get your info after.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
That is what it's about. Hi Lexi, I'm saying it very loud. I want her to hear me. Lexi, part of the show there with the Tree of Valor. Tonight we're on with Dan Corio, and he is someone whose family and himself, New York Police Department. We are going to get into some of 9/11, but prior to that, we're going to get into the background. But yes, Lexi literally is this little girl here, and she absolutely adores anything with the flag, anyone that's serving, her first responders, her veterans, and wants to make sure we all remember who those people are. And again, we have, of course, Tai, who's now serving active duty. Very proud of him. Let's just go through them all. Here we go. That is Sergeant Two-Step. Two-Step is watching over us saying, kick ass, okay? That's what he's saying. He's saying, hello, Lexi.
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you, Dan. Dan Corio. We know each other because of the Two-Step Tribe music together. And I grew up in Nashville, and I actually got to meet Dan for a brief little while there in Nashville. Dan, tell me about New York. Tell me about like growing up in your family, the police department, and how that came about. And then we'll segue to 9/11 after that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make a really long story kind of shortish because the truth of the matter is my grandfather is was a retired sergeant with the Jersey City Police Department. He was very quiet about what he did and all that stuff. So I basically growing up just knew he, was a sergeant with Jersey City. So I was failing out of Middlesex County College in Jersey. And I think it was for the second time. Literally had no direction, no idea what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go or anything like that. I was in the hallway and I was across the hall from a buddy of mine. And I was laughing with him about the fact of like, hey, I'm going to fail out of school again. And like his professor came out. My buddy was born with like the high and tight, wanted to be a cop since he was a kid, the whole thing. And his professor comes out in the hall and just starts talking to us. And he was a former police officer in Boston. Then he went to the FBI. And at that point, and then after that, went into like private practice as an attorney. And he was also a professor over at the school. And he kind of just hit me hard with like, what's so funny about failing out of school? And I was like, well, I don't know. I was a kid just being stupid, and he was like, well, why don't you take my class instead of failing out? He's like, I'll fill out the paperwork. We'll get you out of the class you're in, get you into my class. I was like, oh, I don't want to be a cop. I spent half my life running from him. So I was like, I don't want any part of that, man. And he was like, listen, take my class. And I don't know if it's okay to mention this. I'll just say his first name was Jeff. And he literally changed the trajectory of my life. I literally went from failing out of school to getting on Dean's List. And it just really, he was really one of the first people that kind of opened the door to me having a conversation with my grandfather and just saying, hey, what is all that about? Like, what is the job really, And he basically said, a guy like you should go to a city. You'll have the opportunity to have a bunch of different jobs under one umbrella, being the NYPD or Jersey City. And you'll be so busy that, you'll be running around getting 911 calls and all kind of stuff that, you'll probably really enjoy something like that. And he was phenomenal. Like our midterm, I tell everyone this, and it's such a cool story. And I have to tell you, because like, just for teachers out there, our midterm was a full-scale dress rehearsal for the FBI, where he had one of his buddies come in. Sorry, I lost you guys there. He had one of his buddies come in and they sat there and they called you in one by one. And during this, interview, they would present information from the class. Like, oh, you say you want to be with the FBI. Well, you probably don't even know what year this was founded or this happened. And it would introduce stuff from the class. And, but all the while you felt like you were doing an interview, and it really was like such a cool thing to prepare you. So, and then once I got with that, I took the test for NYPD and I took the test for Jersey City, and NYPD called first. And my grandfather drove me to every interview, every medical, everything you can imagine in New York. My grandfather, we did dry runs to places on the weekend, and we did dry runs during a weekday to make sure we knew the traffic. And he would sit outside and wait for me to get through whatever it was I was going through. And it was phenomenal. It was just a cool time,
I like that. And Dan, back up a minute, because there are some people out there who are going to go, they don't know what dry run means.
Oh yeah, just driving to the place,
Right.
just like doing like driving there, making sure that we knew the route, making sure we had different routes, and then doing it during the week with traffic and all that kind of stuff. Because I really didn't know. I grew up in Jersey actually, but we had to live in New York once you got hired there. So by your swearing in date, I believe it was, we had to have like a New York address and all that. So we really didn't know much about it, So it was,
really?
But we ended up developing such a tight relationship during that time, because then he really started opening up to me more about the job and things. And huge mentor of mine, huge influence, and just an amazing, human being. So yeah.
Nice. So now you're literally in New York, and I'm sure it's some tiny place that you ended up moving to in New York. I can only imagine.
Yeah. We and also, I just to mention too, just to go back, my grandfather also fought World War II. He was a former Marine, so he was that in there.
Yeah, they're like, don't say former. You're supposed to say Marine.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Just don't say X. That's what I thought.
I don't know.
Thought it was, because I know they're always a Marine. They're always a Marine. So no disrespect.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Always a Marine. But he was. He spent a life in service, so he was an amazing individual for sure.
I like that. I love that. And now you're in New York. And are you doing the beat? What are you doing when it comes to the police department?
So I got hired September 29th of 2000, went through the academy. When I graduated that May, I was assigned. So we did a field training thing. I did up in the 2-5 up in Harlem, the 25th precinct, called it 2-5. Came back from field training, finished up the academy, and out of the academy got assigned to the 10th precinct in Manhattan. And we were so new coming out in May, June, July, August, September. I was so new that I was basically on a foot post or with a training sergeant for a majority of that time right then. And if I remember correctly, I had just gotten assigned to midnights maybe the week prior to 9/11. And for my full-time squad, for the squad I was going to be in out of like a training or probationary time.
You didn't
But you had
happen to
already
know
been
someone
in for
named
how
Gary,
long?
did you?
Who's that?
How long were you in already before that date?
4 months. So I graduated in May. I forget what the actual date. May, June, July, August, September. 4 months approximately later.
And which year?
What
year?
was it?
The year.
Well, 2000 I got in.
Right.
And 2001, we went through September through May was the police academy. So it went into 01, and then September 01 hit 4 months after my graduation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I just met a man recently who worked midnights.
Okay.
And he wasn't a sergeant yet, but he became a sergeant after. So he had been in for a bit.
Okay.
I think his name's Gary.
Oh, Gary.
Not a super.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
It's not a super common name. Like Tom.
No, I'm sorry.
You know what I mean? Like Dan.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe is there a? We'll talk about a last name later.
Yeah. I didn't want to throw it out there.
Yeah, when I got hired in 2000, it was like anybody else. September 29th, 2000 was my actual hire date, my swearing in date, and then. And then, like I said, it went through that 8 months of the police academy, approximately, and then
So I wanted to bring up a picture here. This is you.
That was later in my career.
Yeah, we're bumping through your career. Before I get to that point, I want to ask you, what is something that stands out to you when you were serving as a police officer? That's either, I want both. I want one that was like, oh, this is scary. And then I want one that's like, oh my God, no one's ever gonna believe this story. This is just nuts.
I mean, I've had a really crazy career. Like I was there for the whole Sully incident where Sully landed in the Hudson. I was part of the Scuba team during that. So Mike and Robbie were the two guys. When you're assigned to the Scuba team, I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but we basically did rotations on a boat and with the aviation unit for air sea rescue. So we would do about a 2-month rotation out with air sea rescue. And when you were assigned to that aviation, basically you'd be part of a rapid response team. You would come in, set your gear up on the helicopter right at the beginning of your tour. And from that point on, you were rapid response. So you jump out of the helicopter, we could get lowered from the helicopter for anything from people jumping off bridges to cars in the water, planes in the water, helicopters in the water. At that point, you were basically rapid response, and we really didn't conduct like long-term dive ops from the aircraft. When we rotated out of that and went back to the boat, that's where we would do mainly like your evidence recovery, body recovery, those long-term dive operations where you're not taking an asset such as air sea out of service. So Mike and Robbie were the two guys that were assigned to air sea that day. They were the ones you saw in the news jump out of the helicopter. And the rest of us basically came in and ended up freezing for the rest of the night, diving, for the engine, diving for structural damage on the plane so that it could be removed without coming to pieces. So that was pretty crazy. 9/11 was obviously something that was very eye-opening as a young kid, just getting on the job. And I don't know if you want to.
How long had you been in? I just want to make that timeline. When 9/11.
I had graduated the academy 4 months prior to 9/11.
Yeah, so I was trying to let everybody understand that you've got someone in 4 months, not very long, and then you have 9/11. And what happens when you're in and it's 9/11 and you're part of the NYPD?
So for me, I did a detail the night prior. I worked till about 2 a.m. if I remember correctly, and I left. I went, and for some reason, I don't remember why, I went to my mother's house in Jersey, passed out on the couch, and I woke up to my brother. He was telling me that the plane hit the tower, the first one, and woke up. I was kind of looking at it, and saw the second plane hit, and immediately knew obviously we had something bigger going on there. And So at that point, called up my old roommate who was also on the job, and I was like, "Hey, man, we gotta try to link up and get into the city." I mean, they were already obviously calling guys in and everything like that. And I remember it was like I don't want to say I wasn't. I don't want to say I don't remember being scared. I remember being truthfully pissed off that it was happening, and just wanting to get into work, and just wanting to
Help.
help. Yeah, to help
You
however I
wanted to help, yes.
can. Yeah.
So you ended up getting in literally, physically, as
Mhm.
a police officer in the middle of what was going on.
Mhm.
What is there that you could do? Basically, help the people that were trying to get help, literally running from buildings, or
I was
um,
not no, I by the time I had gotten there, the second building had already come down. Um, I was initially assigned to a triage area up at Chelsea Piers where we thought they were going to be bringing victims and all sorts of stuff, and it was staggeringly quiet, to be truthful. It was very weird. It was I was dealing more with families coming in asking about their loved ones
oh,
and didn't really have a lot of answers. So, again, that frustration of like, I want to get down there. Like, I'm here now. I want to get down and I want to do it. And little did I know, I mean, I was going to get that, that fill. But once they kind of realized that there wasn't as many people, there was a lot of damage. We'll just say that there wasn't a lot of people being brought anywhere. So,
right,
eventually got assigned down there. You could be doing anything as a police officer down there. You could be doing anything from security posts immediately in the area because there was people down there, believe it or not, trying to loot, trying to steal, trying to get pictures, all sorts of stuff. Or you could be a part of what was called at that time the Bucket Brigade, which is where we were doing a little bit more of the search and recovery. And I did that quite a bit. And yeah, so that was kind of the things we did. At that time, I didn't know it because I was too new, but, you would always see the emergency service guys going down, and they were doing a lot more like the hardcore digging, cutting, getting into, getting underneath everything and all the damage.
right.
They were a lot more. So I just remember like seeing that as like a young cop and being like those guys know what's going on. And it was very powerful. It was very powerful.
I bet I have a few pictures in here I'd like to pull up since we're talking about the subject and see what you see when you see these pictures. I'm going to go back to the first one. I'm pulling up pictures for everyone out there. Please go to YouTube. You can go to Patriots Inside the Wire. I actually do have you on Instagram right now, but YouTube is the best way to do that. Patriots Inside the Wire. Tell me what this is when I pull this up, Dan, and you can let them know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's right after the first plane hit. Second plane is about to make impact.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got this.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously impact right there.
Right. And then we go here.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's just that smoke was something that, like I said, it was a crystal clear day. So the smoke against that backdrop was something that was just you'll never forget it. You
Yeah.
never, literally never forget it. Obviously, FD, lost. I don't know the numbers. I'd be bullshitting, but you know, I do actually have a really interesting story about an FD guy that I met down there, and it was one of these stories that was super powerful for me, and I don't know that I'll ever. I mean, I never got his name. We were both sitting on a curb down on the pile, like down in that area, and I will never forget him as a human. He looked at me and he asked me how I was doing. And I was like, I'm hanging in, and just two guys talking, right? I mean, a kid and a guy talking. And he kept asking me about me. Am I eating? Am I making sure I'm taking care of myself? All this kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah. I was like, how about you? Have you guys gotten a day off yet or any time off? Because at that time we were literally they were putting us in hotel rooms for, 2-3 hours just to sleep before Red Cross came in. And I said, have you gotten any time off or anything like that? He's like, no, I'm not going to be leaving here. I'm here digging for my son, who was an FD member. And as much as there's always the stuff with PD and FD, and we always have this like half joking thing back and forth. I remember looking at that man and just being like, that's the kind of guy that I want to be, somebody who's going through something that's indescribable and is still sitting there and asking you how you are, and are you okay, and are you taking care of yourself, and all these types of things. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, damn, that is an individual right there that has power beyond, measure as a human,
Yes. Do you know if his son was
I don't
found?
know. We ran into so many people down there. It was so chaotic.
This picture right here tells me a lot.
Yeah.
You can just tell the curb you're talking about, everybody just on the ground between that one and this one too. I mean, you're just looking in, because it's like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the smoke. We've already shown that. But again, the smoke, the impact of the person that captured this picture, I actually have pictures these are not off of the internet, unfortunately. That's an unfortunate thing, that when you happen to know people who were down and around, and actually the good news is the person that I'm talking about got in that building and out, and for some reason decided to go back to their car before going back in for work. And they decided to go check on someone or something, and did not end up back in the building. And so they struggle with the part of, oh my gosh, the guilt, but yet I wasn't in there. And I like to show this to people too, because this is very personal too. When you look at this timetable, it's the 9/11 timetable. As you can see, it's done in here in the phone. I have it. I don't know who all does, but the 9/11 timetable of New York, the Pentagon, Shanksville, to never forget, at 8:46, here we go. The North Tower struck 9:03. South Tower struck 9:37. The Pentagon is struck 9:59. The South Tower collapses at 10:03. Flight 93 PA. And at 10:28, the North Tower collapsed. And everyone's always said to me, if they see that, Tracy, why do you have that? And I said, well, there's a big reason. It's the reason that my son joined the military. And I'll never forget where I was. I'll never forget this little kid sitting by me. And it came on, and this little kid looking at me and going, I'm going to get big, and when I do, I'm going to join the military. So the whole reason of that generation, when I say my son, I'm not going to say my age on here. Those kids literally grew up, like you said, you were mad, like you wanted to get in there and do something. We had a lot of individuals come together that ended up joining the military, actually, is what happened. And so that is a very, 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 I keep it because I'll never, ever forget. It's seared into me as to why in the world, what the way that it would hit a little kid, like the way that something like that hits a little kid, and they turn and look at you and go, this is what I'm going to do about it. You're like, whoa, my head hadn't even processed it yet. Children were already going, we're going to go fight. I'm like, okay, hold up, buddy. We got to get through school. Well, let's figure out what's going on here. Kind of like you mentioned, going through school.
My son was younger. He was younger, and he had seen this, and his take on it was, I'm going to build towers, and I'm going to take planes, and I'm going to, because remember, they were showing it so much, and then they decided, oh, we're not going to put this on TV anymore. And he wasn't with me at that moment. He was with his grandpa, and when he saw this, but it was embedded. It was embedded, and he became a Marine later, not necessarily because of that, but I'm just saying that kids definitely were.
Well, he was in elementary school, so I don't want to date me too much. So I think our kids are pretty close in age that both joined. And it sounds like they both thought, okay, that's what I mean. Kids literally were trying to come up with answers because it was such a powerful, horrible thing that happened in our country that if you follow the story along, there's a lot more than a lot of people actually believe. But I want to stick to you, Dan, and what you were doing and being, how long were you there on the ground? Like, there was a lot of time and things that had to be done. Were you over there for a duration?
Probably on and off for the year at least. Pretty frequently. Every now and then they would pull us back. We would have to do patrol and all those types of things. But I remember in the beginning, there was also a point where you were allowed to wear jeans with your uniform top because we were just burning through boots. You're burning through uniforms, and if you were only if you were doing the buckets, you could wear jeans with a uniform shirt at this time.
If
And
you
I
were doing
remember
what?
if you were doing like the bucket brigade,
Okay.
more kind of like the recovery operation. And I remember I was telling my mom that I was not involved really because I didn't want her to worry, and she would ask me if I was there, and I would always just be like, no, I'm not really doing too much. And for whatever reason that day, she was in the city. I think she was visiting my cousin, and they were just kind of outside like that ground zero area. And I was like, oh, I'll come meet you, I'll walk off. So I kind of walked over and I met her, and I had been in it for so long. It didn't occur to me that I was wearing jeans with a uniform shirt and that it would look weird, like it didn't hit me or register. And I was sitting there and I was talking to my mom and my cousin, and we were just BSing, and she's like looking at me, and I can't figure it out. And then she's like, why are you wearing jeans? And I think that was how my mother actually found out that I was a little bit more involved with everything that was going on down there. Cause like I said, the last thing you want is for your family to worry, So anytime we spoke, it was just kind of like, no, I'm not really too involved. And she comes and sees you very involved, But so, I would say on and off for the duration of about a year, pretty frequently.
So a lot of people have had health issues who worked down there. Have you had that issue?
I've lost a few buddies to those issues. I do get checked annually, like we have our 9/11 medicals and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't want to go. We definitely, yes, there's a lot of guys that have gotten sick. It's something that is tough to deal with because like even to this day, you'll get a call from somebody and be like, hey man, they have this type of cancer, that type of cancer, and they're pulling it back to ground zero and stuff like that. I mean, my first probably, I don't want to exaggerate days because everything is truly like a blur. I want to say for at least the first 2 weeks down there, I mean, I think I was wearing a paper mask. We didn't have any of the filters or anything like that. And it was just one of those things where you didn't really think about it at first. You weren't thinking of safety, it was kind of, it just, and I was young, and you're young and you're invincible, and it's like, you're not thinking of that stuff. And then
nobody was really prepared for that.
Yeah. And as you get older and, buddies get sick, buddies die and things like that is, you guys are aware.
Just the inhalation of the smoke in itself, amongst the other things, but just the inhalation of the smoke intake would literally, the lining of your lungs, there is so much that is going on. I want to make sure before we're not closing right now, but I'm going to make sure before we do, we take a moment to remember all of those who are no longer here and all of the families that are impacted. And I know that the whole world is impacted. When I say that, I mean those we've lost. So we need to never forget about 9/11 and all of those. We always say, remember, we're in the world of first responder, veteran, military daily. But I also want everyone to remember 9/11. So as you're down there, Dan, and you're nonstop, and now your mom knows you're down there. I know as a mother that like I just took a big gulp myself, and I'm not your mom, but I know that I know why you lied to her. I've been lied to by my own kid for this kind of stuff, and I was like, you told us, but I get why you did that. You're a good son, and you've been down there a year, and I am pretty sure, I'm not going to speak for you, but I guarantee you came across the families that were running up and wanting to know, where their loved ones were.
Yes. Yeah. There was a lot of that.
What do you do?
Honestly, just tell the best you can is just tell people you're doing the best you can to try to find everybody that you can. I mean, there's a lot of stuff with respect I will not get into, and it's not because I can't, it's just because I won't, out of respect for those families.
Yeah.
I think for me, the important people to recognize are the people that also were not in uniform that ran into those buildings to go help people because they're under no obligation to do it. The police officers and the firemen that lost their lives that day. And also, I think people that don't get talked about enough are the Red Cross folks that were there, that came in and made sure that, Yeah, they literally had rooms at one point where there was a table outside of a room that was filled with cots, and on that table outside they had little timers with a number. So you'd go up to this person and you'd say, "Hey, I have an hour break," and they'd set the timer outside so as to not wake anybody inside. And they would know on cot number 5 you have an hour, and then after that hour they'd come in and they just quietly wake you up and get you out there. We also spent time at the church, Trinity, like just I actually did read a lot of the cards that like kids sent from schools, like laying in the pews. They would they'd bring in like classical guitar players sometimes or something, and they would just play kind of off, and I would just lay there in the pew, and you get a couple hours of sleep, or a couple, not hours, but whatever you could. And I think that those folks, the Red Cross people, don't get talked about enough. I think anybody that volunteered, I think that I'd rather focus on them. I think we all know about the loss, and I could sit here and go on and on about horror stories with that stuff, but I think there was also a lot of heroics that day from people that didn't sign up to be a hero. So I think that that's important to recognize as well.
No, the Red Cross actually showing up and doing what they can, and then there were actually just civilians that were a lot of actually retired. So retired officers, retired fire department, retired with our veterans, literally went into action mode without even thinking twice. And mothers, I mean, regular individuals that were like, you just reacted and acted and took action because, like you said, you don't think about how much time has gone by. You're in the middle of this. And so you're just going and going.
Yeah. I think, well, actually, on a funny kind of story that if you can consider it funny. So I always screw up his name, but Steve Buscemi, I believe it is, the actor.
Yeah.
I just read this today.
Yeah, so I've ran into him down there. So it was in the beginning, and there was we had to like go duck out, whatever. He needed to borrow my flashlight, and I'm looking at him, and I was like, you can't miss his face, and I'm like, wait a second. And so one of the guys he was working with, I was like, is that? And he was like, bro, he was a go-getter. He did not act like an actor. He wanted to get in the middle of it all. And the thing I respected the most about him was like, you rarely heard him going out and, bragging about it or anything. I think the first time I heard it was like a late night show, and they kind of put him on the spot and said, hey, we heard you were down there. But major respect to that man, because like I said, here's a dude that has it all. And he went down there. And like I said, by all accounts of the people I spoke to, and I never worked side by side with him. Like I said, I met him briefly there, but I heard he was a phenomenal worker, just trying to get in, get to work. Yeah, use my flashlight. So if, I want it back, Steve. No, I got it back.
No, he used to be on Engine 55. Like,
is that where he was?
Before he was an actor.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to look because I knew I had shared that. I just read that story today. But he used to be on Engine 55, like back in the day. And then after it happened, he went back and didn't say anything. And
very quiet about it. Very like stuff like that always inspires me, because like I said, he could have been on TV and doing the tour of like why he's so great. And he didn't. He kept his mouth shut. He went in. And like I said, by all accounts, he busted his ass, wanted to be the first guy getting in and doing the work. So I have a huge amount of respect for that dude. So,
nice. Yeah. Nice. I like that. The humanity within our everyday people, or someone that's actually known like that, that's out there, and then they don't want to be known or be bothered for that. They want to actually help. So I love that. And so you're 4 months in, and you're at 9/11, literally, you said for a year, going back and on and off, going back and forth. And what would you want to tell anyone about being with NYPD? And you mentioned it yourself when you said, you told them, I do not want to be a cop. Like, I don't want to do that. There's reasons I just don't want to do it. And I know that that's out there. I know that people are like this. I don't want to be. As a matter of fact, my son was one. I'll go ahead and tell you, I am not going to be a cop. You can't even make me do it. I'll go in the military and I'll be in there, but there is no way I'm not going to be a cop.
Yeah.
So what was it with you that you're like, no, but then yet you had someone mentor you, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, that was really it, was just
Yeah.
that dude, like, literally just changed everything, and then once I started talking to my grandfather, it was like, "Okay, cool, this is something I can do."
Yeah.
And also the opportunity of being in a city and knowing that, like, you were just gonna be busy, you were gonna get it. They say, like, it's a front row seat to the circus, and they are not lying. Like, when you work in Manhattan, or anywhere in NYPD, especially midnights, I mean, it is wild.
I
It is
can't even
wild,
imagine. I
So
mean,
it's
I
it's
can't
funny.
imagine.
It's funny the stuff you come across and see.
You have a funny story?
Yeah, I met Cupid, Jesus, and the devil all on the same day, on one day on patrol. Yeah, it's a true story. Yeah, Cupid was
You
outside of a store, and the store called because they wanted him to leave, and he was in a diaper, and he had the fake wings, and he had his little thing going, and we showed up, and he would not talk to you. Like, he was just would not acknowledge you being there. And I'm like, "Hey, dude, listen, like, you gotta go," and he's just like sitting there, and I could see him like side eyeing, and I'm like, the last thing I'm doing is looking to roll around with a guy in a diaper on the side of the road to prove a point. So I was like, "Hey, man, here's the deal. I'm gonna go around the block. I don't care what you do, just don't be here when I get back. That's it." I was like, "Go fall in love somewhere else." And sure as shit, I came back and he was gone. But and then we met Jesus. He was out there preaching, and he was real. I mean, he looked the part. And then the scary one was the guy that thought he was the devil. I mean, that dude that was one of those jobs on patrol where you would call for the emergency service unit for an emotionally disturbed person. And yeah, he gave everybody a handful. He was out there. But
disturbing, yeah.
yeah,
Sounds
yeah,
disturbing, actually. Sounds scary to me.
yeah.
Um, definitely. And then going through this, so as you're in there, you're talking about 4 months in, we're in a year on and off, but you went through the NYPD and then you decided to go into scuba diving. So
Mhm.
I didn't even know that there was a whole different, kind of like being in the military, there's different MOSs. So within
Mhm.
the New York Police Department, because of the location, there's a whole nother area that you went to, and I'm going to let you tell it because you know it better than me.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, originally I was blown away by emergency service. That was like the thing. And I was just too young on the job. I didn't really have enough experience for it or anything like that. But I always wanted more. I just always did. It was just one of those things, like, no matter where I'm at, I'm just trying to push. And then I saw someone on the news jump out of a helicopter, an NYPD helicopter, into the river, and all this. And I'm like, well, what the hell is that, man? I want to do that. And my poor mother, I mean, to this day, she'll tell you, like, she's just like, come on, man, just stop. Every time something happens. So I was like, no, I'm gonna do that. And so I called up. I got the number to the team, and I called up, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in trying out for the scuba team, and blah blah blah. And the guy said, well, you have to be a certified regular diver, recreational diver
And
for
it's
2
this
years.
picture, right?
Well, that was from the helicopter. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
was in flight, either back from a job. That's the dry suit and the harness above the dry suit. But yeah, so that was from the scuba team. But he's like, you have to have 2 years of dive experience as a recreational diver. So go get yourself experience, and then you have to pass the test. If you could pass the test, then you'll go through an 8-month training period with us, and then you'll get onto the team. And man, I don't hear anything for like a year, and I was always fairly fit. um and I get a call to go down, and I was not ready. So I get the interview, and they're like, well, are you ready? And I'm like, of course I'm ready. And then they're like, well, if we test you tomorrow, you could pass the test. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, whatever. I had no idea how hard this test was going to be. No idea. I mean, you could see it on paper, and it's out there for people to see. They've since changed it, I believe. But, like, basically what they do is you'll just go from event to event to event to event, and without a break. So if I remember this, and don't quote me on these times because it's been a minute, but, like, you'd come in, you do a mile run. It had to be in like 6:37. From there, you go to your pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups. From there, you'll go to those had minimums. From there, you go to your 500-yard swim, your underwater lap swim, a weighted swim, and they just have you going from thing to thing to thing to thing. And all of a sudden, those things start to add up, and you're like, holy shit, I'm really tired. And it culminates in the end, and I didn't find this out till later, because if you fail any point during that test, they drop you and you don't even get to see the rest of the test. Well, my first time through, I got to the swim, and I know there's people out there that'll tell you like, oh, it was like a lap off. I was like this. I was nowhere near it. I literally got in that water and gassed. And I remember I was sitting on the side of the pool, and the instructor came over, and we test within ourselves. So he was a team guy. And he sits down next to me, and he was, to his credit, trying to be motivating. And he's like, hey man, this isn't for everybody. You know, don't be hard on yourself and all this. And I'm like, oh, I'll be back. And he was like, a lot of people say that. And in my head, I was pissed. I was like, nah, bro, you don't understand. I'll be back. Like, and I didn't say that, but in my head, I was just, and I knew he was trying to do the right thing. It was no fault of him, but I was pissed. So I left that day. I joined. There was a local Y on Staten Island. I lived around the corner, and literally that night I was in the pool swimming again. That night I was like, that will never happen to me again, I promise. So about maybe 9 months later, I believe, I got called again, and they were like, hey man, are you ready? And you know, not like that, but I was like, yeah, let's go. And that time I did very well. I passed. So yeah. Good. But again, it'll culminate in the end with like they'll do like a regular PADI, you know, recreational dive test. And then they'll put you through a stress test underwater. So after you've done all the other stuff, they'll swim around you, pull your fin off, pull your regulator out of your mouth, you know, spin you around, push you around. And if you surface at any point during that portion of the test, you'll fail. They basically just want to see you problem solve underwater. I mean, you could go, it's not a timed event. So you can go get your fin, you can go get whatever. They just want to see that, you know, to get your air source, because everything else it doesn't matter really. You know, you get your air source and you're good. And then they'll put a piece of wood from one corner of the pool to the other. They give you a 35-pound weight belt with all your gear, and you have one pull to get yourself out of the water. So if you do one of those where you come up and you go back down, you actually fail the whole day. And the reason for that, which I found out later, was because you may be involved in a rescue, you know, you're exhausted, all this kind of stuff. Well, in order to get someone on the back of a boat has to be in neutral. So that makes that boat subject to tides. So if they're by the rocks, they're by somewhere else or something like that, and you get someone on the back of the boat, you have got to be able to get yourself on that boat and, you know, a victim up and yourself up quickly, so that boat pilot could, you know, put the boat in gear and not, you know, end up, you know, ashore or something like that. So everything in that test had a purpose and a reason.
Definitely. And it wasn't like it was an easy one. And that's why I pulled this up before, but I was looking at what you're wearing there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at you, and what were you doing this day? You're going into the water for training or actual search and rescue?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell, I could make up a cool story for you. I don't remember exactly what I was doing that day. I mean, we flew back and forth on that helicopter quite a bit, but you could see on top of the dry suit, I have a harness on, those two straps right there. Yeah. So that is actually part of a harness that once we deployed from the helicopter, and we could get a victim back into the ship via basket, backboard, and you know, any. That's how they would get us back into the ship. They could lower the hook. They'll lower the hook to you. You'll swim to it, take that hook. Then there's a little triangle kind of like right here in the center chest of that harness there. And you'll hook into that, clear yourself, and they'll hoist you back up into the helicopter.
Got it.
From there.
Okay.
So that's actually a way to get us. Or if it's shallow water or a ship, I've had people having a heart attack on board a ship that is like a barge where someone else can't get on, so they can lower us onto that ship from the aircraft. You could get on board. We were all EMT basics. So you could render a basic level of care, but really the objective is to get them out of that situation and get them to a higher level of care.
So how many times did you have to, I don't want to say save someone, but I mean, like, how long did you do that?
I was on that team for roughly 12, 13 years.
Wow.
And, we were busy. We were a lot busier than people think. I'll tell you that. I you know, when it was summertime and downtime, it's great, right? I mean, but in the winter, freezing cold, you're diving for, like I said, evidence, guns, knives, things like that, body recovery. You know, it could be pretty grueling, you know? Yeah, it had its moments, you know, for sure. But I think there was only 30 people on the team. out of 45,000 police department. We were 4 squads, A, B, C, D, and I have to tell you that it literally, I don't ever want to take anything away from anywhere else I was, because the guys on patrol were phenomenal mentors to me. Phenomenal. I mean, I was so blessed to be around those guys as a young kid, punky, to have these older guys turn around and be like, hey, kid, this is how we do this. This is how we act, right? I was very, very fortunate. I don't ever want to take anything away from those guys on patrol, because they are phenomenal. And I've seen some of them do some of the bravest shit people will do, period. Scuba was unique. It's such a small team at that point. You're going through so much different training together, aircraft ditching training, under ice, things like that type of training.
Wow. Under ice.
Yeah, we would do that. Now, we would dive underneath barges during 4th of July, tugs, anything like that, looking for any type of devices, things like that. Whenever the president came in, Marine One would land, say over at the Wall Street heliport, we would dive one side of the pier, Navy EOD would dive the other, and we would work pretty closely with those guys. And it was a different experience, and the guys on that team it was a different level. You just would get into work, and nobody would sit there and tell you to work out. Nobody would sit there and tell you what you needed to do. You just knew you needed to do it. It was one of those things where, like, it was big boy rules, and you could jump out of a helicopter a mile or two offshore, and if that aircraft can't hoist you back up for a reason, or has a fuel issue or mechanical issue, they're going to fly back, and you have to be able to swim to shore, or they're going to leave a life raft for you, and you're going to have to deal with it that way. So, you really have to be prepared and ready to do your job, know your job, do your job well. And it was a little bit of a different, more specific job,
I would think every day really was different.
Yeah. It was, you just didn't know. You just didn't know what you were going to come across. But to say that I was blessed would be a huge understatement on the job entirely. Like, the people, my first day on in Scuba. So my sergeant, I guess I said his last name is Reynolds. We'll say that. I'll keep his first name out of it. He's one of the most amazing human beings you'll come across, bar none. Still a very good friend of mine. And our first day on the team, like, he took us in the team room. He's like, hey guys, this is the team room. You're not going to see it for like 8-9 months. Don't be in this room. Be down on the boat, be checking out your gear, be learning your equipment, be doing this. And he's like leaning into us kind of hard, but like, just kind of, if I call you, you pick up the phone, all that kind of stuff. And you're sitting there and you're like, man, I'm on it. I'm here. You're starting to train. And then his face kind of lightens, and he's like, has anybody ever been on a helicopter? And we were like, no. And he's like, all right, one's going to land in 5 minutes. You're going to be jumping out of them. You might as well, see what it's like to be on one. I mean, that was the start of my career with the Scuba team. And it was like, it was like nothing else. It was just phenomenal. And the people on the team are still to this day some of the best people you'll come across.
So you had a lot of different scenarios, because you mentioned Sully in the beginning. Yeah. If anyone picked up on that, Sully is the airplane pilot, and it landed there in the New York area that you were talking about. So in the very beginning of the show, I noticed that we brushed right through that. You mentioned Sully, and then we kind of brushed right over it. That's actually the plane. So you were on patrol and with the NYPD when that happened too?
I was on the Scuba team.
You're on the Scuba team.
Yeah, I was actually in an EMT class when he and Rob were assigned to air sea rescue that day. So they were assigned to aviation with the aviation unit. Like I said, we did rotations with them. So when you were part of the Scuba team, so I'm going to try to make this as easy as, because I know it's confusing, but like I said, 4 squads, A, B, C, and D. So say you have 6 to 8 guys in a squad. At any given time, 2 of those members from that squad will be rotated out to aviation and be assigned there for 2 to 3 months, roughly, whatever. And then they'll rotate back, and 2 other guys from that squad will go out, and they'll be, with aviation for a little while. And Mike and Rob were the 2 guys. They were 2 B squad guys, and they were assigned. they were at airsea that day and they got the cool guy job. They got to jump out of the helicopter and do the cool guy stuff, and the rest of us got to freeze our asses off for the rest of the night diving on the thing. But
you got to dive in and rescue the
I didn't do any rescuing. I did not. Everything I was doing was, like I said, diving for the engine that came off, and we were diving for structural damage underneath. The plane was tied off, and they basically wanted to remove it. And the engineers wanted to know basically how bad the bottom was. So you were kind of doing everything by feel. Excuse me. And basically just kind of reporting back like where heavy damage was and things like that. So it's a really cool picture of me. You can't tell it's me, but me and my buddy Brian on top of the plane. And it was really a cool thing because we're on top of this plane and all the seawalls like filled with people. And they're all looking at us. And I remember saying to Brian, I'm like, everybody's sitting there looking, thinking like those two guys know what's up. And me and him are like, I hope we don't screw this up, man. So it was cool. It was a really good team to be a part of.
How long were you in and you retired out from the NYPD? Because I know you through music. So how long were you there and retired?
Yeah, so I did a majority of my career with the Scuba team, and then towards the end, I was planning on staying to 25 years. 20 was what was expected of us at that time. I think they've changed it since, but I always planned on I was anywhere between 20 and 25. And at that time, I had gotten, I had done a lot. I became an instructor with Scuba, stuff like that. They sent me to instructor school, did that whole thing. And I kind of had done everything I needed to do with the team, and I was just ready for a different challenge. And ESU, I could tell you that I basically came to a moment where I was sitting there thinking, if I was forced to retire tomorrow, what would I regret? And I never wanted to get promoted. I ended up becoming a detective specialist, which was like, they won't give you hazard pay in the city, so they would promote you detective specialist. That's basically what it was. But I never cared about being a sergeant, a lieutenant captain, anything like that. And the only thing I could think of was if I was forced to retire tomorrow I would have regretted not knowing if I could have made it to the emergency service unit. So I went ahead and started to put papers in for that, which again is another tryout and then another 8-month training period where you go through special weapons and tactics, hazmat, vehicle extrication, high angle rope rescue, all sorts of stuff like that. And so I end up getting through that, getting selected, and I get into that, and I went through that. And during that time, so I mean, I don't know how, I know it's like a lot of long stories. I apologize, but it's so we get through the 8-month training for the emergency service unit, and again, great guys, great girls. It's just people that want to be at the peak of what they're doing, and when you're around people like that, you can't help but be inspired. And it's no different with music for me today. I want to be around the best people in the world, because if you're the best person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I think for me, it's like, get around people that are better than you and just keep trying to get better,
trying to elevate. Yes. Elevate, respect, and give back.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
And those guys and girls there, it was like the same thing. It was just people that wanted to be at the peak. And once I interviewed, I had intended on staying another 5 years. My father during the time, so my dad and I, my parents were divorced. Wasn't particularly tight with my dad growing up, but he was always the music side of things, my dad's side of the family. During my time in specialized training section for ESU, my father had gotten sick. And so come graduation day, I was part of a group of guys. They selected different groups of guys randomly, really, to do demos for the family before the ceremony actually started. Do fast rope out of the helicopter, and we would do that. They had a group of guys assault a bus to show how we could take it back if it was taken over, things like that. So we throw a bunch of flashbangs. The families love it. It's cool. What was interesting was I fast rope out of the helicopter. I get on the ground and I look over and I see my dad, and which was shocking for me because I was like, man, I didn't see him that much growing up, and he didn't look great. He just kind of had a look about him. And So we go through the ceremony and everything like that, and it was cool. I think he finally got an idea of what I was doing for a living and whatnot. And that night, a couple hours later, my brother called me and was like, "Hey, man, Dad fell. He's conscious, but he's like very incoherent." And we got him to the hospital, and they found a brain tumor. And then the next morning, they found out he had lung cancer. And so now here I am, literally graduating from this school, getting assigned to a truck where I don't know anybody. I mean, outside of like stuff that I did when I was in Scuba, and you have to perform. There is no like but meanwhile I'm going back and forth between the hospital and all this kind of stuff, and he ended up dying about 3 months later. And for some reason, it literally, that was it for me. I was done. And so I did my 20, which was what was expected, but I don't know what it was. He after he died, I kind of just was, I knew I was done. I knew I was done. I did everything I needed to do. And unfortunately, I didn't spend as much time with the emergency service unit as I would have liked to have. But those guys deserve somebody that's all in all the time. And I think at that point, I was, for whatever reason, just really ready to get out and kind of really move towards this music thing. And that's kind of what happened. So I did my 20 and I got out.
So did you ever get prompted to do things like?
There you go. They're coming for you.
Like Western North Carolina or hurricanes, or do you ever get involved with any of that?
No, the ESU had guys sent. They did send us to.
Then. I meant like since then.
Oh, since? No. Yeah, no. Once I got out, I was, truth be told, I was pretty done. I did some protection stuff afterwards that was kind of like available to me, and I did it, but I'll be honest, my heart just wasn't there anymore. I just really was done, and music was kind of calling me like real loud, and it was like I always had that love and I was always doing it, but I wasn't ever all in. And again, it was kind of one of those things for me where I was like, it's just time, and I left, and I kind of have one of those brains where like whatever I'm on, like I'm focused on, and so I kind of ended up
all in or all out.
That's it.
I'm that way.
Sent me a comment for you, but they didn't put it online. They just sent it on my phone, and they said apparently this gentleman, he was the first law enforcement officer from New York that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that his sister's first husband, Sean, had a cousin named Kenneth Hansen who died.
Kenny Hansen. Yeah.
Kenny Hansen.
I know Kenny Hansen. Yeah. Well, I know of him. Yeah.
He died in a scuba training accident.
He drowned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm aware of that. Yeah.
He said, wow, a Germany TV crew was filming.
They were, I wasn't on the team when it happened. When I got on, it was a story that I heard quite a bit of. I think they wanted, because they were filming, they wanted it to look more realistic. I don't want to BS, but I from all the stories that I heard was they didn't have a life vest or anything like that on him, and I think that was ultimately what, if I remember right. But yeah, I was very familiar with that story, Kenny Hansen. Yeah,
just he was 26.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, happened 250 yards from Battery Park.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Battery Park is like kind of on the it's kind of hard to explain, but on the edge of Manhattan, there on the end of Manhattan, Battery Park is kind of across the river right there. Right. And they were doing exercises, which I mean, things like that, unfortunately, it's
unfortunate.
Yeah.
We definitely want to remember all those from that day, all of the work that you did there too, Dan. It's not just you, you've got other members of your family. It's you've got Detective Specialist NYPD, 9/11 First Responder, Scuba Team. You've got you retired from the Emergency Services Unit. You're on with Dan Corio live here on Patriots Inside the Wire. And someone else just did a noise too over there. I just heard that.
That was me.
And I want to take you over to this picture now, Dan, so you can lead us into where did you go? You've done the ESU, you've experienced things, and now you've got, instead of scuba gear in your hands, you have a guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, after my father passed, I kind of really started digging in a little bit harder with music. And it was the same thing. It was like, hey, not that there's not great music in New York, because there is, but it was just like, where can I go and get the most experience, the most availability to go play somewhere and all that kind of stuff. And Nashville was just it. It was like I'd been there, I'd visited a few times, and it was like just the amount of music there and original music. That was something that really, obviously Broadway has its players and they're doing what they do, and that's great for what they do, but there's also like this writers scene in Nashville that's huge. And for me, once I got exposed to that, I was like, this is it for me. Like, I love writing, I love playing guitar, I love community, and yeah, so Nashville just
Therapeutic
became.
too, so it has its benefits there. I mean,
Mhm.
universally a language, and then the therapeutic side of writing is what I actually found for me. But I was told last night that I'm a unicorn, and I'm like, what the heck? And I grew up in Nashville, so
Yes.
I guess there's all these people that are going there, and I left there. But I know the Nashville from uh,
Oh, it's my mom.
growing up there, like things that you
Love you,
know
mom.
yeah, that's I know. So
Yeah.
making sure we definitely have to always, when we catch someone that's there, we have to always make sure we take care of mom. So that's the number one thing. And that's how you can tell if someone's a really good person as well. So that's what I tell my son. I'm like, the number one way to tell is how the son is to the mother. So that's how
I'm a
you,
huge pain in the ass to her in public, but here I'll be, in
yeah,
private, I should say.
I don't believe that.
I'll drive the woman crazy, but
Yeah,
it's
I don't believe that. I bet she's extremely proud
yeah.
and very happy. I actually have your music in here. So Dan Corio is part of the Two Step Tribe and all the different music things that we're doing and going to do. So the Sergeant Two Step Festival is not just a one-time thing; it's an ongoing thing that will happen. Trio of Valor will be involved with us. You saw some of that in that new intro. I didn't get to see much. I was doing the tech work there. So I know Lori was like bracing herself. I didn't get to watch it, but Lori, you'll have to tell me what you thought of it. But I do have your music in here, Dan, and I wanted them to hear some of that too. So now we're getting all the glimpses of Dan, and this is the story about Dan. Now that's going to turn into a song, but the story about Dan. I like that. And you sent me 3 different songs, and out of those 3 songs, I was curious, especially I think it's "Rolling Away" or which one that you're talking about? Tears.
Tears was probably Used to Love the Rain. I think it
Yes,
was,
used to
yeah.
love the rain. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
What
I think
is
that
this?
one.
Is there a story there? Is that you? Did you write that one?
Well, I think it was universal. I mean, I wrote all of them, but I think it's universal for me in the sense that um it's like the things that you love when you're with somebody that seems so, like, you're just like, oh man, I love the rain. You're like cuddled up watching TV and it's raining out, and you're like, oh my God, I love this. And then if you break up and it's raining, you're like, I hate the damn rain. Like, so it's kind of like metaphoric for really anything you could put for the rain. But yeah, so it was that's where it came from. It's just kind of that thing of like loving something when you're with someone and then kind of not so much after.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. She says she's very proud, very, very, very proud. And so, and we're getting on September 11th, 2001, 343 firefighters, 71 law enforcement officers, 8 paramedics, and 55 military personnel is what we're getting in here as far as the numbers, most definitely. And we definitely, our hearts go out, and all of us, we should never forget about 9/11 and everything that's before and after 9/11. There's a lot that ties into that. And so, used to love the rain, and you have the 2 others in here. What is out current? Is one of the 3 I have the current one that you're focusing on?
Well, we got a bunch of stuff about ready to come out.
I know.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited because we started recording with a producer down there in Nashville, and I'm pretty psyched for what's coming. But Used to Love the Rain is one of the more recent ones, and
Mhm.
it's opened up a couple doors, so it's been a good one.
Nice.
It's been a good
Are
one.
we going to
Nice.
get to hear one?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I have them loaded in here so we can show all sides of Dan Corio. Dan Corio's on with us live right now. NYPD on the scene again. 9/11. Gone through the Scuba diving team. Gone through the ESU Emergency Services Unit. Retired after 20 years and decides to go to Nashville and try the music business. And
Sounds
so
much cooler
music,
when you say it.
yeah,
No.
I'll say it for you. I can even do my radio voice, but
I'm just kidding.
I won't do that one. But no, I love it. I'll do it for you. I'll even use the radio voice for you one day if you want it recorded. But I actually have all three loaded, and so no, you haven't heard them, Lori. But on Two Step Tribe, you all can check that out. Two Step Tribe. It's the number 2. Don't spell that. I do that all the time. I'm like, why would anyone spell Two Step? It's Two Step Tribe. You can go to that YouTube and that Instagram account, or it's on every platform you can find. That is how Dan and I met, was through music. And so music brought us together at Two Step Tribe. So through Two Step Tribe in his music, and then he actually got to meet what's left of my family. And then what happened is I got stuck in Nashville. That's when we lost the mother there in Nashville, and I ended up there for an extended period of time. But Dan actually was gone for an extended period of time on vacation. Yeah. So a lot of the people that I knew there are not in music. My people were always in music, so music people. But you got to remember, everyone's aging out. So that's part of it. And then a lot of things have happened in this world that have caused my relatives to not be here. So I immediately was like, how am I going to do this? I've got to figure out how I'm going to do this. And I was asking Dan, but he popped over. We're literally at a restaurant. The only relative still, I'll just say a relative of mine, who's a mother figure there. And I can't remember if my kid was with me, but I just remember you walked in and he was like, I only have a few minutes. I'm working on my truck and then I'm going on a cruise. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Yeah. So we got to meet there in person, but the writing rooms are very good there. And then, you go over into the Texas area, that's a whole different music scene. So especially Austin, it just depends on what genre you want to get into, but any type of music in itself. And so in the area that you're in, we knew it well, and we were around that same area. So for Two Step Tribe with number 2, you can go to that YouTube, literally. We will be having our show there. But Lori, I don't think you've heard anything probably from Dan. And so I want to pick a song here for you. And Dan, which one would you like to start with?
Yeah, you could go Used to Love the Rain. Why not?
I love the rain. So
this is, Used to Love the Rain. I used to go out and jump in the puddles and like tomboy stuff, like literally like play in the mud and the holes and just jump all in them. So Used to Love the Rain. Here it is. And this is Dan Corio, who's been on with us tonight, Patriots Inside the Wire, part of a Two Step Tribe production here with Miss Lori Egeter from the Tree of Valor. Here it is, Used to Love the Rain. And you can find Dan's music right now, Dan Corio. You got to go support your artists. What a lot of people don't realize with the digital trends, you've got to go move the music, move it to your playlist, put it in the playlist, and then take care of your artists, because just going and clicking the button doesn't cut it. That's not how music works these days. So Used to Love the Rain is Dan's music. Let's take a listen.
The rain's been falling for hours now. Used to love the rhythm of that sound, but lately all it does is bring me down. Think of losing her and the lights go out. 'Cause it was raining on the night she left me, tears like a river, I wonder if she happy now. My world's torn, she never looked back, didn't even slam the door. Her calm is my storm, I know she loved me once before. strikes, leaving better memories of rainy nights when we'd make love and hold on, her head on my chest and my arms. Now I'm here alone, 'cause it was raining on the night she left me. Tears like a river, I wonder if she had me now. My world's torn, she never looked back, didn't even slam the door. Her calm is my storm, I know she loved me once before. Way I used to love the rain, never saw clouds rolling in. Must have missed the sign she gave. Could I really be that blind? Walk outside, I'm getting sold. Scream at the sky to let me know what to do with all this pain. Now that I'm standing in the rain. Her calm is my storm, I know she loved me once before. I used to love the rain. I used to love the rain. I used to love the rain.
I loved it.
Thank you.
I love that song, actually, Dan. And then, of course, I go back to you at the scuba diving. You like jumping in water nonstop. You basically lived in water for a really long time.
Yeah.
There was the scuba team. So, and then the next one I have in here, can you give us the title of the next song?
Yeah, I don't know which one you're going to go with, but if you go with Hold On, I mean, Hold On was one I wrote. The next two were pretty early on from writing. I think Rolling Away was maybe the second song I released or third. And the other one is called Hold On. If you get that one was important to me because that's written just kind of addressing mental health and kind of trying to be a positive light as far as, hey, if you're somebody that's struggling, you're not alone, reach out, get the help that you need. I don't have those answers for long-term care and all that stuff. I wish I did. But I think that if we can open up those lines of communication for folks, especially first responders, military folks, to get out there and realize, like, if we could just start talking about it before it gets to that moment of like, hey, there's nothing else. There's nothing else I can do. And maybe at least if we could open up those lines of communication, get people talking, get some ideas going with people that are much smarter than me to get ideas of how to help these people, because I've responded to, and especially when I was with emergency service, and I've lost buddies to suicide. I've seen a lot of it. And it's one of those things where I just wish, recently, within the last year, had another buddy of mine from emergency take his life. And it's one of these things where, you keep telling people, hey, just talk. And I don't think folks do. And then they get to that point where it's like, there's nothing left and they feel like they have no other choice. And I guess all I'm trying to advocate for is, hey, let's get talking about that stuff early. Let's not let that thing build up, and then we can get that help that you need. Don't wait till you need the help to get the help. Get that help early. Talk to people that are educated. Talk to people that not your buddies, not TikTok and all this bullshit with people telling people how to be. Because there's no one fix for every person. So you could sit there and something that's logical for someone like me, someone else could sit in the same room and be like, that doesn't make any damn sense. And that's not going to work for me. So I think that's the thing of getting professional care, is sitting across from somebody that says, hey, I can help you with this because I'm trained in it. I've dealt with it. I know it. Or, hey, maybe some of those folks need to be a little bit smarter and say, hey, I'm not prepared to work with you. I have a buddy of mine or a friend of mine or someone else who's better equipped to deal with the mental health crisis that you're dealing with currently. And I'm not passing you off. Let's talk. Let's figure it out today. But I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine, and we're going to get you the proper help, because there is not a one size fits all for this thing. And
Yeah,
I just really wish people would know that it is okay to not be okay. It is
it
okay to talk
definitely
about
is.
shit if you need to. We're all built differently. We're all built to see and deal with certain things. So anyway, the song Hold On was written as kind of a thing for just, in those moments, just literally, physically and emotionally just hold on and realize that you're not alone, and there are people that are there, and there are people that care. Even if they don't know your name, there's people that care enough to sit out there and try to help you and try to get you the help that you need. So I
Most
guess that's
definitely.
my
And I stop in now and I say, if you or anyone you know is in need of help, please call 988. Reach out and do something about that. I did lose my little brother not long ago to that you're speaking about, Dan. So I am very big on talking about it, and it is okay to not be okay, even for the people that are left now after that has happened. I can tell you I'm angry. I'm extremely angry at him. I think it does so much to the people that are left here that nobody talks about that either. So there's so many ways that it's better for you to be here and not be gone. And think about it, get yourself there, but remember the other people that are around. That, man, that is the ultimate that has been the ultimate test for me because of the people that I've lost, losing a son, and I actually raised my little brother, but I still don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm like, I never, ever, ever, and I've been around this. Lori's been around it. We talked to a lot of different families about this, but I didn't think it'd be me. I never, ever thought it would be me. I literally thought there is no way in hell, a big, strong, you name it, that I would get that phone call. But I want, every week on average for first responders, it's 5. So on average, every week for our first responders, about 5 of them end up taking their lives. So this is something that we stay actively involved on with Patriots Inside the Wire, whether it's our 22 a day, 5 a day, and then of course you have your active duty personnel. So my child was actually killed, but my brother, yes, he didn't see any other option, and that happened. So anyone out there, it is okay to ask for help. Please call 988. Reach out and touch someone. I can tell you, as a family member, that it is god awful to have to live with that and losing so many people. And we want you here. So we're going to play Hold On from Dan Corio.
Before we do that, I just want to say too, my buddy Craig just commented in there. He's one of the most badass crew chiefs from aviation, most knowledgeable, a great dude. We have done some jobs together where he was lowering me out of that aircraft, and I got to tell you, Craig is one of the most amazing human beings you'll meet. He's one of those guys I was referencing before, where I said, like, you got some of the best people around you. I've had that dude on some real jobs, and he is a phenomenal human being. So
nice. So he's a first responder too.
Yeah, he's crew chief with the aviation unit, and an amazing human being. Yeah, good dude. Good dude. Thank you, brother.
Still upstate, still around the New York area, I would have bet. Yeah.
I'm not giving that information out here.
Not with upstate. Yeah.
You want his social too? I mean,
I do. Yeah, I do. I know optic actually. I actually have to know all about that, but because I would have listened, New Yorker up there. You said you worked together up there, so I'm like, there's no way that New Yorker who's with the NYPD moved to work for a different police department. I guarantee he's with the NYPD. I'm like, I can put 2 and 2 together. That equals 4. So Dan, thank you for your service too. Thank you for what you do, and everyone else out there who does put themselves in the middle of helping others in many ways. There's a lot of ways that we can take care of each other. One of those, this song, Hold On, is very important. And it is important that you do hold on. It is okay to not be okay. I love that, Dan. That is something that we have to stress here. Here it is. It is Dan Corio with the song Hold On.
broken pieces don't define the heart that's you. Kinda sad that no matter how hard we try, only truth in life is that we'll live and we'll die. Hold on and don't let go. I know you've got the strength to show. This world, what you're made of. Hold on, don't never let go. Been down some dark roads, I know all those feelings. Happiness gets hard and pain is appealing. Getting way down with the roads you can follow. Choose wisely and my friend, avoid the sorrow. Hold on and don't let go. I know you've got the strength to show. This world, what you're made of. Hold on, don't ever let go. Sometimes it seems you're the only one who feels like this. Roads are rough on the gravel you call bliss. Time flies by, no regard for what we want. Not alone. Hold on.
There you have it right there. As the banner says, please call 988 if you or anyone you know is in need of help. We are coming to a close here on Patriots Inside the Wire with Dan Corio. Dan, we appreciate you and your time. Everything that you've done, we thank you. Hold on, it is very important. I'll keep that here, but I want to check back in with you when all of your music comes out. We'll get you back on for the music. And yes, don't forget, I didn't hit that the Sergeant Two-Step Festival is coming up September 27th. A lot of people don't even know what that day is, but you don't have to be someone that's under that government regulated. September 27th definition is survivors of the fallen. So that's what that event is, September 27th. It's a whole lot of music, events, auctions, all sorts of things, and bringing awareness that we do have a lot of people who are no longer here. So it's here. I have to show you this one.
Yeah, Timmy.
Yeah.
Another great guy, man.
Yeah,
Another
I had
emergency
to,
service guy. He is a great dude.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And my aunt is in there too. I'm
Yeah,
very, like I said, I was surrounded by some of the greatest people. Period. That's it.
Yeah,
they are the
good
best.
people. All right.
That's it.
Well, so your people, they're good people. We like you.
Yeah.
So Dan Corio, it's been great having you on Patriots Inside the Wire. We'll grab you again for the two-step show with all of our music and what's going on. I'm going to close us out here. Thank you, and I'll be in touch with you, Dan, for more. And everyone out there, I want to take a second really quick before I close out for 9/11 and all of those that are not here. Just take a moment really quick for everyone there. If you'll give me a second, I'd like to actually pull up a picture here, and we will go by that one, and we'll take a minute. There it is. Thank you for tuning in tonight on Patriots Inside the Wire. Our hearts are with you. I want to say good night now. Thank you, Dan, for your time. Dan Corio, go check out what he's doing in his music too. Start listening to that. Dan, we appreciate you. Lori, I'm going to close us out here. Anything you'd like to say before I do?
Same thing I always say. We see you.
We see you. We're here for sure. I'm going to close us out here. We've got a video here by the Uncle Rhino to close us out. Here it is. Stand by.
This has been a Patriots Inside the Wire production. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Two-Step Tribe, where you, the viewer, are always the rock star of this show. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. We cannot do this without you. Your uncle says so, and you are loved and appreciated. Sergeant Two-Step, sign us out. Let's load up and roll out.